Okay, so welcome everyone, and I am Paulina Van. I am the author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach to self-care, self-understanding, and inner healing. And I am so glad that you're here with us today, and we're located in Oakland. We're coming to you from Oakland, and in the room are just wonderful family and friends and anyone who had something to contribute to this book. I thank you for being here. And online, we have a whole online community. And it's because of my mentors and people who care so much about my work. So I'm just going to give a shout out to them. It's the Samuel Merritt University family. It's the Watson Caring Science Institute and the Nursology community, and then my family and friends across the country and internationally. So welcome. So what are we going to do today? And why are you going to spend time? Well, I hope that you will leave here inspired. We're going to spend about 45 minutes, and I'm going to read some of the poems. I selected 10 out of the 100, so let's see how much we can do. And then there'll be Q&A from the audience in the room and also online. I just want to tell you a little bit about me, not a bunch. And that is, I've been a nurse for 46 years, and I've been most of the time in administration. 25 years ago, I began teaching in higher education. And I'm from Central America, and a long line of healers. And so this work is near and dear to me, and I've lived it out in my research career and in my life. But one of the contributions I've given is helping caregivers help women cope after pregnancy loss. And so that work has also led me to self-care. And so in 2014, I began a very aggressive self-care journey. Lastly, these poems were channeled through me. Okay, and I want to read what I wrote. These poems were channeled through me, given to me by the one who created me. Therefore, I see myself as a vessel. I label these poems regalos, or gifts in Spanish. They were given to me, and so I must give them to the world. The first poem I'm going to read, it really indicates where my healing journey began. And it is from a place of hurt and trauma. Yet the good news is that, and I'm going to take words from my pastor, Bishop Clark. He wrote after reading my poems, "Trauma and trouble are real, but not permanent." So let's start with "It Hurts." And this was written on November the 2nd, 2019. I was attending a pregnancy loss workshop, and we began, just like we began today, with a centering exercise. And then the facilitators, two young African-American women, asked us to just write for 3 minutes from our hearts. And this is what I wrote. It hurts. It hurts because I buried experiences. It hurts because my emotions came through anyway. It hurts because my parents were the culprits. It hurts because I couldn't defend myself. It hurts because the abuse lived in the background, adversely impacting my life. It hurts because I didn't feel lovable. It hurts because feeling unworthy made me accept relationships which were unhealthy. It hurts because I pushed people away who could have been helpful and loving. It hurts because I suffered emotionally most of my life. It hurts because I may have impacted others unknowingly, but now I'm healing the hurts. Hurt is fleeting. Hurt is losing power. Hurt is dead. And I get to live and love. The next one I'll read to you is entitled The Heart Will. And I was a student in a Caritas Coach education program. Caritas means love and care. And one of my classmates, we did this online, one of my classmates asked me, how did I become so Caritas literate? And you'd think literate means cognitive, but Caritas means how you navigate the world. Are you a healing presence in this world? And so I told her, I said, I don't know how I did it so quickly, but perhaps my heart does. And so I wrote this on the post. The heart will, even if I won't. The heart will, even if I don't. The heart will, even if I can't. The heart will love, guide, nourish every time I need to flourish. Okay. The next one, so we're into the healing poems. And the next one I wrote simply before I went to sleep one night. And it's called It's Amazing. And those of you who have the book, I'm on page 23. It's amazing to be filled with grace. It's amazing to have won the race. It's amazing the flow of life. It's amazing I've lost the strife. It's amazing so bright is my aura, radiating from my soul, letting me know I am amazing. The next one is entitled, I Had to Get It Out. And that day, I wrote 8 poems. I had to get it out and tell my story. I had to get it out to give him glory. I had to get it out for health. I had to get it out to garner wealth. I had to get it out by opening my heart. I had to get it out. I believe it was smart. I had to get it out for healing to begin. I had to get it out, and it's gone in the wind. The next one is being vulnerable, and it's on page 71. And after each of the poems, I usually made a note, but I didn't make a note after this one, so here it is. Being vulnerable is frightening. Being vulnerable is enlightening. Being vulnerable draws others near. Being vulnerable creates fear. Being vulnerable transforms my thinking. Being vulnerable gives me an inkling. Being vulnerable is living. Being vulnerable creates giving. Being vulnerable is churning within. Being vulnerable is how I win. The next one is on page 79, for those of you who have the book. And we were packing up our former home, and it came to me. And it's entitled, I Hear. I hear the whispering wind. I hear words within. I hear my heart reverberating. I hear my spirit celebrating. I hear all that is good. I hear what I should. The next one is on page 84, and it's entitled, I feel so wise, all written during the height of the pandemic. But I had gone 3 months without a manicure. And those of you who know me, that's a long time. and and so it was, after midnight, and I decided I was going to do something with my nails, and I was sitting in bed, and my husband was sleeping. And he knows I'm going to tell this story because I asked for his permission. And he has a CPAP machine, but somehow he was snoring around the CPAP machine, okay? And so he's snoring, the words are coming down, so I'm trying to listen to these words. So I turn on a white sound machine, so I have him snoring and the white sound machine going. So here we go, caring for myself. I'm caring for myself in a new way. I'm caring for myself, and only I have a say. I'm caring for myself, living in harmony. I'm caring for myself, eliminating monotony. I'm caring for myself, realizing my worth. I'm caring for myself, cherishing my time on earth. I'm caring for myself, humbled by blessings. I'm caring for myself with gratitude while progressing. I'm caring for myself, garnering quiet time. I'm caring for myself and feeling miraculously divine. How am I doing with time? Mm-hmm. Yeah, good, okay. The next one, okay, I'm really bringing you guys deep into my life. Okay, here we go. The next one is about my near-death experience. And I had just celebrated 80th birthday with the nurse who saved me. And so let me read it and I'll tell you more. The light. It's on page 168. The light. I've heard stories. The light has been associated with trips to glory. The light experience I had, the light didn't make me sad. The light I encountered when I was sick, the light was warm and inviting. The light, it was leading me to uniting. The light all of a sudden was slightly hidden. The light my mother appeared, expressing forbidden. The light faded away and I woke up. The light refrained my consciousness, refreshed my vision and values, opened my heart, and gave me a new start. The last one I'm going to read, that I have planned to read, there may be more you want me to read, but the last one is the last poem written for this book. This is number 100. And it was written after having a disappointing conversation with a very dear friend. And I was hurt and saddened because I thought our friendship was greater than that. And I asked myself, see, this is the caritas in me, the love and caring in me, and I asked myself, what can I learn from this situation? And writing this poem, it's entitled, It's in God's Hand, and it's on page 201. I was having coffee, and the first 4 lines came to me, and this brought me to a place of peace and even made me smile. It also illuminated the mnemonic love. So remember the very first poem I talked about, I get to live in love? Well, this one brought it home, so I'll read it to you. It's called, It's in God's Hand, page 201. It's in God's hand, all that I have. It's in God's hand, those I encounter on his behalf. It's in God's hand, faces I face. It's in God's hand, when I create a loving space. It's in God's hand, the gift of compassion. It's in God's hand, living with passion. It's in God's hand, every breath I take. It's in God's hand, disappointments I forsake. It's in God's hand, life I make, opportunities I uptake, vulnerabilities I shake, experiences I create. And that's what the love is. Okay, so I'm going to now, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to now begin in the room. Oh, I'm going to begin online. Okay. And questions or comments? Thank you.
Yes, we have some people with us online today. We have Beth and James and Gail and Margaret. And Cheryl from Atlanta is sending energy and love and light. And Aki from Walnut Creek is with us as well. And we did have some people with a few questions. One asks, how long have you been writing poetry?
How long?
How long have you been writing?
Okay, so I'm going to come very clean. Before these downloads, I didn't read poetry. I didn't like poetry. Now, of course, I embraced Maya Angelou's work, Still I Rise. But I want to, maybe I can rephrase it. I didn't create these. These came to me almost like an energetic force that took over my thinking. And the words would appear to me. And I would have to, I couldn't record them. I couldn't longhand write them. I had to go to my computer and type them out. So I'm just a vessel, but it started November the 2nd, 2019.
You started out bravely sharing some of your own journey, especially your early journey and some of the trauma that you experienced then. How does your work as a healer and a nurse inform your reflections on your own healing?
It's a great, great question. Those of us, and that's all of us in this room, we tend to care for others more than we care for ourselves. And I have to constantly remind myself to take a break, take a walk. It's not automatic. And so by caring for others, and my initial response, my automatic response is to care for others. And I'm still a work in progress, reminding myself. And I think I'm doing pretty good when I remind myself. Yes, yes.
And one more before we turn to the audience with us in the room. What made you feel that this was the right time for you to share your reflections and your poetry with the world?
Wow, that is a loaded question. Because these were given to me, every time I tried to be the driver, something got in the way. I had to do it God's way. On the other hand, He sent me so many helpers. Many of them are in this room. And I didn't ask if I could call them out, so I'll be respectful. But just so many resources came to me. So getting the poems, remember, these are unedited, they're how they came to me, but it was all the other things around it that became difficult. And these were finished in January 2021, but there were so many obstacles. And then one day I just said, you know what, it's going to happen. September the 26th is the day. And my husband says, oh, you can't do that, because he used to own a bookstore. He said, you can't just make a date. And I said, I'm doing it, and this is God's work, and if it's meant to be, it's going to go out on September the 26th. And look, here we are, right? Right? Okay, so from in the room.
Do I need to stand? Thank you. I just want to ask how you feel that you were able to overcome the obvious sense of vulnerability in sharing these downloads that were coming to you, and being able to compile them in one place. And what was that journey like for you to be able to overcome that sense of vulnerability and sharing in this way?
Okay, great question, Pastor Vicki. Those of you who know me, which are people in this room, I'm a very private person. And these downloads came, and my husband would say, "How many do you have?" I said, "I don't know. I'm not counting them. I'm just allowing the process to happen." And all I can say is, I got this by releasing all of this that I've been holding and hiding for over 6 decades, almost 7, over 6 decades. I feel so free. I feel so light. I feel that I can do anything in life. And so I didn't know that it was this personal until I had someone read it. And she said to me, "You're not going to publish this, are you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She says, "But it's so personal." But you know what I feel? If we have these experiences and don't give of ourselves, what value are they? You know? And so, yes, I stand here. I've only read 10. There's much more self-reveal in here. But I'm hoping that with my self-reveal and my courage, that as you read them, you will reflect yourself and get this feeling of being free, feeling of being healed that I have now. Thank you, Pastor. Any other questions?
So I have a comment first and then a question. And my comment is thank you so very much for sharing of yourself and kind of demonstrating that that's a really great thing to do. It's a gift. And as people see that you're doing it, it'll become more normal for other people to do it as well. So thank you, and I think that's great. My question is, what's next now?
Well, okay, so I want to tell those in the room and those online that the voice you heard, may I identify you? That is Mr. Stephen Samuel, and he just heard I just told him about my poems, and he's the one who propelled me to publishing. He took away all of the mystery, etc., and so thank you. So what's next? I already have these poems or regalos for book 2. I can't tell you how many I have, but I'm on page 42, so we can estimate. And remember, there is narrative that I write after each one. But my plan is, as God gives me these, that that I publish them. But I'll tell you, this isn't your question, but I have to share this with you. And going through this journey, it's almost like everything I do is lyrical. So I was awarded a major award recently, and I was asked to give an acceptance speech, and the speech was downloaded as a poem. And then Bishop, my pastor's birthday is today, and we were asked to give a video message, and his birthday message came down in a poem. So you got to be careful, because I will write a poem about you. And I have written poems about people in this room. They're in here. Okay, all right. Any other? Yes.
How did you feel when you were starting each poem?
Christine, they can't hear her online. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
How did you feel when you were first starting each poem? And how did you feel when you were done with each poem? Was it like a draining experience or an invigorating experience at the end of each one?
Great question, Deb. Great question. And so, and my husband's here, he's the only witness to this phenomena. But I could be cooking, I could be sitting talking to him, anything. And this energetic whatever would take over my thinking. And the words would appear for the first 4 lines, sometimes 6 lines. And I had to go to the computer and get them out of me. I had to get it out, yeah, right? I had to get it out. But you'll see that these regalos take twists and turns. So you don't know where they're going to end up until the very last phrase. So keep that in mind. That's where the lesson is, in the last few lines. Yeah. Any other comments?
Hello, my dear sister friend.
Hi.
Hi. I walked in when you were reading, and when I sat down, page 71, the vulnerability poem spoke to me in a very deep way. Can you share what is it about vulnerability that sometimes, that you believe, sometimes make people powerless, fragile, frail, afraid, but what you have written gives power to that?
Thank you. Thank you, Inan. I will say, and my husband says I'm risk averse, so it's not only financially I'm risk averse, but in my personal life I'm risk averse, not professionally. So it's almost like I'm split. Professionally, there's no boundaries. Everything is possible. Personally, I feel vulnerable, and I can still say I feel vulnerable all of the time. I just do. And I don't know if it's because of my childhood experiences. Vulnerability for me is the fear of something that may not even be real. See? And when I talk to myself about that, and I do talk to myself, I talk to myself about that, and I say, you know, what really is the message? Why are you having fear? One of the things that has helped me to enhance and have my vulnerability grow is my spiritual life. And so that's kind of like an anchor. So what if someone says something not so nice to me? You know what I do now? I send them blessings. If there's bad behavior, send them blessings.
We have another question that has come online, which is, what advice would you have for someone taking their very first step on their own healing journey?
Okay. The first step is to learn to love yourself unconditionally. And that's what I learned in the Caritas Coach Education Program. Because we all, we look in the mirror, oh, am I too fat, or I'm too thin? Am I too short? Am I too tall? Did I say the right thing? We're always that voice. And if you love yourself, just love yourself unconditionally. And I had to work at that, because I felt unlovable. I told you, I felt unlovable. But there's a Hawaiian prayer, and I am not even going to try to pronounce the name of the prayer, but it's a 4-line prayer, and I said it daily. And you know what? But it has to do with loving yourself and thanking yourself, and that helps. And do some self-compassion work. Remember when we began, online, before we streamed on, I hope that's the correct term, before we tuned in, we did a centering meditation where we asked our heart, what does the heart want today? And so the heart is a powerful tool, and that's another discussion, because I could talk all day about the heart. Yes, thank you.
And our last question would be, if there was one message that you really wanted a reader to take away from your book, what would that be?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The message is, and I almost feel repetitive, but the message is, love yourself, believe that you are worth it, no matter what the world says. When you stumble and fall, get back up. That's what I want. And as you read these poems, I want you to consider them as gifts, because they're not from me. They're from those of you who believe in a creator. That's who they came from. And they are messages from him on how we can live better lives, how we can take care of ourselves. And so I'd love for you to let me know, like Ianon told me how vulnerability affected her. I'd love for you to send me messages so I can hear your own story. This is my first YouTube channel, so I'm going to ask you to subscribe so you can keep up with what I'm doing with this work. If there are unanswered questions in the chat, I will go live and answer them and place them on my YouTube channel. Okay, and so we are going to bring this to a close. The last thing I want to say is that a percentage of the proceeds from this first edition will go to my scholarship, the Dr. Paulina R. Van Perinatal Scholarship at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland, California. And it's to help African American and Hispanic nurses to earn their degree, and you know how hard that is, how financially draining it is. So thank you for joining us today. May just blessings to you all, and Regala healing.